Hi Kadambari, how are you?
Hi, Vidhi. How are you?
Very well, so great to have you. Just waiting for a couple of minutes to start the series.
Sure, sure. Thanks for having me.
We are really, really happy, and it's such a relevant topic right now that it's really exciting to have you here. So I think with no further ado, what I'm going to do is introduce the topic that is for today,
Yeah.
and it is about relearning with online schooling, homeschooling, and how parents can bring awareness within themselves and their children. And welcome everyone. This is session 2 as a part of Discover Heal. Heal is all about health, energy, awareness, and learning. So, in the next 5 to 6 months, we are going to bring out many, many positive topics to do with our parenting, our growth, our health, education for our children. And in our second session today, we have Kadambari Rana. Kadambari Rana is
Thanks
from
for
one of our
having me.
most welcome. She is from our most prestigious institution in Delhi, St. Stephen's. She's an economist from there. She's also an independent educationist. Her MSc is from Cardiff University in England. She has also many, many accolades such as the J. Krishnamurti Foundation Educational Learning Program. She has taught at the Sri Ram School in the higher secondary areas in economics and other subjects. And now she writes columns. She's an author for many prestigious papers, journals on independent education. So she calls herself an independent educationist. And today we would like to hear from her in a very, very relevant space on homeschooling. What does it really mean to have an online education, and can it really substitute what real education used to mean in our country? So let's have your opening thoughts on that.
So, homeschooling is relevant in times like these. It's not something which is outdated or a concept which will never be visited, will come and go. But especially in times like this, it will stay. It has a lot of relevance because the responsibility of learning and play lies on the parents in pandemics, in times when there is pollution shut down, and the world is expected to face a lot more of these kind of unexpected circumstances where
Yeah.
the parents will have to take over the role of the teacher as well as being parents to the child. So the
Absolutely.
relevance of homeschooling is extremely important right now, and it is something which must be taken very seriously. And as far as online teaching versus face-to-face learning is concerned, online teaching can never take the place of face-to-face learning. You know,
Right.
even though it is very important that our children keep having this sense of continuity of education, which
Absolutely.
online teaching is providing. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because if we didn't have access to online teaching, being able to see the faces of our teachers, our peer group, you just imagine the scenario would be so sad for children, you know. So it has its positives, but it cannot
Yeah.
take the place of face to face and in person learning.
Yeah, I think we're in a new era in India because we have homeschooling or the concept of homeschooling in many countries. But in India, school has always been a central institution. And in this era, I think we're all finding ourselves in a new space. Can you shed a little light on the difference between online learning and online schooling versus homeschooling in its traditional definition, where it's practiced, even abroad? How can we understand the difference and start applying that?
You're right. So in homeschooling, what happens is that the parents are opting for structuring the learning program curriculum for the child on their own, right?
Right.
So this could be a mix. This could be like some parents are interested in developing that entire curriculum for their child by themselves, the husband and
Right.
the wife,
Hmm.
and take inputs from content available to them, particular to the child's age group, the milestones. Of course, they have to be aware of what the milestones have to be for their child, you know,
Right.
and but they have a lot of flexibility of how they want to deliver that curriculum, you know, how to meet those milestones, versus online learning, online teaching is a substitute for still a structured form of schooling. It is still
Right.
structured. There is a structure
Very,
where
very
is a
different.
rest. There is a central education body, a school or institute, which is
Hmm.
designing this for you, but
Yes.
delivering it online instead of
Right.
face to face or in person. That's broadly the difference between the two.
So the responsibility is very, very different. It shifts from the parent to the teacher versus, or the teacher is the online schooling and homeschooling is the choice of the parent where they are taking responsibility. Okay, so today
Yeah.
I think we are in an era where we are sort of, as Indian parents, in a space where we are maybe doing both or getting ready to do both, where we have the curriculum and we might also have a space where we have to put in our own, because there are many, many subjects that get left out in online schooling. And we're not really able to substitute that at home. So the parent also has started to take that initiative. And, I think it's in a way in a zone where the blind is leading the blind. So we really need you to shed light on what are the steps we can, in a concrete way, take to enhance learning and really making it an online plus homeschooling environment so that our children really develop, because it is a chance for many, many parents to bond and bring out their own fortes, their own creativity, which we may have not have thought of because school was there.
Right. So it's definitely the chance, your golden chance to bond with your children. Time like this, many families have been waiting for, oh, we don't have time because we are working. Oh, the children's school schedule is so packed. We don't know how to
Yeah.
spend time with them. So you parents can certainly look at this COVID lockdown and the pandemic in a positive way, which I think every human should look at any circumstance from the positive side of it. So use this time and bond and don't just be assessors. I keep stressing on this and several times that parents cannot just be assessors of the child's learning outcomes.
Yeah.
They need to be part of the learning journey themselves. Now, having said that, bonding and all those fun activities, it sounds all very exciting, but it will demand that the parent needs to buckle up and educate themselves.
Yeah.
The educator in this case is the parent in the homeschooling scenario, and they have to educate themselves if they want to effectively pass on something which the child enjoys learning.
Right.
So that is, and from that thought stems out other things. Once the parent is, it's okay if you don't know a little bit of geography, you don't know. I was not very good at science in school, but maybe if you're put in a position that, okay, I have to teach my child a bit of bio, bit of physics, you will open up the chapters and start reading it. It's okay. I mean, it's never too late to revisit the concepts ourselves.
Right, right. But a big pressing question comes that, great, like some of us are educators, we are in the health field, so we are able to come out of our shell and be creative and create modules for ourselves, because like you said, class 4 and 5 upwards, there are subjects that we've completely lost touch with.
Yeah.
So maybe we can create projects around that. Is there a way you can suggest to facilitate this? Because many, many parents are still working full time, and moms and dads both. And it's a really challenging time for them to even cope up with the basics. So sometimes your mind is just, okay, get the grades, because the teacher expects the written work and you expect the marks to come, and that's your only tool for assessment because you're really tired.
Right.
And it is a scenario that causes frustration, stress, fear, all of those things. So, are there any steps or ideas that you have for our society in general on how we can create these modules in groups or through dialogue? How do we do this?
See, so there are two things we're talking here. One is that if you look at a model where the parent is homeschooling, purely homeschooling, in the sense they are not at the same time registered at a school. The child is not registered or affiliated. They're not affiliated as parents to a school, or the child is not registered or has admission in a organized, study structure. And then the other is this midway, which is more prevalent right now. Like, if the current scenario, what is happening is, it's like with the support of what the school is providing, the parents are applying at home.
Absolutely.
That is what is happening now, more than this pure homeschooling thing. So in that sense, the parents do have a lot of curriculum which the teachers are a lot of content which the teachers are continuously sending, and they can actually have a better parent-teacher associations need to be strengthened in this scenario. Where we have this homeschooling, schooling, sandwich business going on right now. The parent-teacher association needs to be strengthened, and as they have to work as partners. Then what will happen is that this collective knowledge that the teachers and the parents have will be able to make them effective in the learning outcomes of the child. So the parent-teacher association needs to be extremely strengthened, where the parents can access material, content, ideas. At the same time, we are living in this Google age. You can look up a lot of ideas too.
Yes. Absolutely. No, what you're saying is, it makes a lot of sense, and I think you've educated yourself for over 15 years in this field, and I think you still feel that there's so much more to be done for all age groups in terms of your own learning. And many of us parents who haven't even done anything in terms of educational teaching tools awareness, for us this is the starting point. When it is the starting point, I think we need our teachers from whichever school of thought they might come, but our teachers to really help us. What are the materials we can use? I think that can be starting point. And then each of us, some of us are good with music, some of us are good with dance, some of us are good with craft. I think we can use our own mediums to really create these tools. And each person then brings out their own creativity, which probably never came out because some of us think we are mediocre, and we never impart that in front of our children. And this is the time to really understand that whatever you have within you is enough.
Right. It's very simple, the times that we learn the most is when we look within. That what is it that we missed out in life? What is it that who are the teachers that we remember the most? Somebody who has personally touched us, certainly, and there were sometimes there were teachers, they were so mean, so rude, so harsh that we began to hate the subject, right? So the parents need to just revisit those feelings and go back and think that if we were to be taught something, how would we like it to be taught? Then also ideas will start coming, and if some parent is good in music, they can teach maths, English, physics through that medium. So it's a time to be really creative, explore that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because our associations are so connected to our emotions that you're saying that, I might love a subject and my memory completely becomes gray because of association with a teacher who I didn't like or scolded me or taught it in a way that just seemed non-interesting. And it is the medium with which we have to learn. But it is a challenge for us parents to do that for every subject. And there are times where you think you're good in one and your child absolutely isn't performing. And you tend to forget at that time, you're like, why can't you get this material? What is so difficult about it? That frustration that comes in. And then, of course, the child reacts at that point. That reaction and our reaction towards the child, the frustration that comes out there. Do you have any tools to stop yourself there and say that, no, this is action reaction, which is a complete negative chain of events? Because we'll all fall into that. We all pray to that many times. We don't know consciously what's happening. So any tips you've used then?
The tips for
any tips you use there to really control yourself, that okay, stop, you're getting into that action reaction space, that why don't you understand this material, like what's wrong with you? We have those phases,
right? You do. The first thing to do is, which I do, and I've learned over time, over my experiences, and I've had to come face to face with these irritations and anger while raising my daughter and while raising her consciously. Even then,
yes, absolutely.
Step away, and if you're fortunate to have another adult around, ask them to take over and suspend whatever activity you were trying to do with the child. It will not work. You need to calm yourself down. You need to get away from that space, and you need to suspend that activity, because that activity or learning is going to go nowhere. Right? So just step away, and that really helps, because chances are that if you're living in a household with 2 or 3 members also, somebody will be more equanimous than you are to take over at that time.
At that moment, absolutely. Absolutely.
But
And I
it's
think
okay.
many of our viewers who are watching today and will watch further will absolutely mirror this feeling that all of us mothers, however conscious or controlled we are,
Yeah.
have had a point where we feel like, oh, this child. Or, some
Yeah.
mothers have really said that we've really not been able to refrain from giving one tight slap at that point. And we're all against that violence. It's a violence against ourselves as parents, it's a violence against the child, the situation, everything. And that seems to be happening a lot, whether it's mental or physical. And stepping away is a beautiful way of doing it. Sometimes we just feel we are
Yeah.
losing control, we're losing face, and we can't do that in front of our child. So thank you for saying that. And now I want to highlight one more important aspect. We're all about schooling, online classes, studies. And I want to bring out something that you did beautifully as a national service to our country. You also represented India as a national shooter. And that's brilliant. While doing all of these academic achievements, you have been out there on a shooting
Right.
range, trained yourself to that level. And it obviously took a lot of training, a lot of dedication. How can we
Right.
inspire our children to have this balance, bring sports into their lives while doing this?
So it depends at what age you introduce what kind of sport. When the
Yes,
children are younger, it's more about play and it's more about exploration. And
absolutely.
and you have to allow them to do that. They would
Yes,
want to do skating one day, they would want to do ballet another day, and they may want to do badminton, tennis, all of those. You
yeah,
have to, as parents, allow them to explore all kinds of games, and they're
yeah,
different muscles, different skill sets used in a different sport. So I would suggest for a younger age group, don't compel them into any kind of serious sports training, which I would say like about 8-10 years of age. Let them
mhm,
explore.
yeah,
And then you will observe that naturally they will get inclined towards having a schedule, because training for sports means you need to follow some schedule, some hours of practice. That will
right,
come with age. It is not going to come for a 4-year-old, for a 5-year-old, where although we know cases where tennis stars or other swimmers have started really early. So even if they start early, let them don't put a pressure on them to win a medal or a rank.
right,
Just let them, if they do as a byproduct of their enjoyment, good
right,
enough.
yeah,
Don't put a pressure on them. But later on, I mean, if the value is basically communicated to them,
right,
if you allow the value to be experienced, like if you play the sport, there are certain skill sets which will be developed, which
hmm,
will be interlinked with your um enhancement in academics also. For
right,
instance, if you are doing shooting, you're also developing concentration, you are developing
absolutely,
focus on the target, you know
right,
you're also having to do a lot of rigorous work, because you're standing. If your
right,
practice matches are if you're playing a match for 1 hour or one and a
mhm,
half hours, your practice has to be double or thrice that time. So
absolutely,
imagine the amount of skills which are developed when you're playing sports.
yeah,
The importance of playing sports is immense, and that will you will see how it enhances your output in your academics at a senior level. Because children, when they're in class 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, even
yeah,
if they have the most chilled out parent, they may still be feeling pressurized because of peer pressure ki mujhe is university mein jana hai, I have to get that much marks. So there's
yes,
social pressure, peer pressure also. So
absolutely.
sometimes they need to see ki theek hai, if I have a multi-dimensional approach to life, how will it enhance each aspect of my life?
Right, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is movement at all ages and movement in a timed manner as we grow older, in a disciplined manner, possibly. And we are also, releasing the endorphins that we don't necessarily when we are
Yeah.
focusing on a subject. And
Yeah.
once that's released, we help balance the rest of the study time. So that's great.
Right.
What I also find is that when you mentioned the high achievers in sports, many of
Hmm.
them have parents who've been highly disciplined and got them into that discipline very, very young, where we hear of child prodigies in every field, a
Hmm.
4-year-old, 5-year-old, and it
Hmm.
really comes back to the parent and what
Hmm.
were the practices the parent was following.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
say monkeys see, monkeys do. And the parent is where it starts, that you are
Hmm.
completely, your child is a mirror of you. So I think this is an
Hmm.
opportunity for all of us not only to become aware, but aware of our practices that we are doing externally, because our kids are watching us much more than they were before.
Right.
So,
Vidhi, what happens is that, when you become parents,
yeah.
I think this is one thing which I keep advocating all the time, that which I've experienced in my own life, that the moment you become parents, you suddenly have to take a different form. I mean, you can't, because you have to be conscious of what you are doing every
Yeah.
minute. You know, of course, you look for times when you can just chill with your friends and you can just be yourself and use whatever language you want to, use whatever expressions you want to. But the moment you become parents, you have to understand it's at least a 16 to 18-year job project, and your guard has to be up. There's no other way
I
if you
think
want to do it right.
a lot of parents feel very pressurized by this. That okay, why can't I be completely natural? What is that natural? Do I have to be conscious and aware at all times? And this need puts a lot of mental pressure on a lot of parents. And I think today what we're talking about is really when we say it's a project, and there are spaces and time where we can take time for ourselves.
Yeah.
But the idea is to really pull yourself to evolve. A child makes you do that. And it's a long-term project of self-work more than anything else.
And you'll enjoy yourself, and you'll enjoy being yourself. If you're well centered and you are in touch with what you really need to be in touch with, you will do a good job being yourself.
Right, absolutely. So now we've been talking about this self-evolution, but this needs to be done at the rural setting also. What does it mean for rural children who also have online schooling, but they don't have parents who can support them at all? So where is the parental role? What do we do in those scenarios? Because we do know that rural children are hungry for knowledge. We know they have access to cell phones to their parents' friends. How do we get them to this space of at least some amount of learning, not equal learning, but some amount of learning through this online or homeschooling medium? Where is the support?
Right. So, Vidhi, the thing is that this is a debate of whether, first of all, we moved from whether online learning is the best way of learning. The answer is simply no. But if it has to be some form of learning, it better be some form of learning than nil. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then coming to the homeschooling debate, how do we apply this in settings where homes are educationally backward and the setting is rural? I think in those scenarios, the involvement of the field level workers, NGOs, the government has to be very, very active.
Yes.
Also of volunteer educators. Because these children may not, their households may not be equipped to have one-on-one learning with the child at home. So you need to bring them out in smaller groups, following whatever COVID precautions in outside spaces in villages,
Yes.
And the curriculum also should be tweaked a little bit, I feel, by the schools, knowing where the children when we develop curriculums, we have to take into account the socio-economic cultural background also. So for these students, they have access to farmlands, they have access to dairy, they have access to a lot of activity, which happens at the rural level.
Right.
So tweak your assignments, tweak your learning, tweak your subjects and topics based on that, so that they will be they'll be able to learn that way. I think that is one way of doing it efficiently, because
rural urban divide is quite a bit and the context is different. So sometimes the rural, children growing there can't connect to the material that's been given to them unless it is really contextualized into where they are. So absolutely.
As far as having cell phones and laptops is concerned, those there is a huge divide in not only divide in urban and rural, but overall accessibility of modes of communication to people in India is very, very dismal. So even if somebody has a laptop, the figure is that only 0.7% of people in the rural area have access to internet along with laptop. So even if you have laptop, you have no internet access, the learning can't happen.
Right.
I
see. Yeah. So we are facing a very, very serious and grave situation in terms of learning, and we don't know when we'll be back in that. Um, so now this is, coming to organic learning for all children across social income stratas, across rural urban divide. We need to send a message out there of what can we do to teach our children to really engender this inner happiness while being stuck at home, which is not external, it's not attached to things or buying things or doing things or necessarily meeting friends, because even socialization is so little and many times we depend on gadgets. So when we don't have access to that, how do we teach our children to start looking within and finding that inner happiness?
So for little children to, understand or comprehend or even apply the spiritual meaning of happiness takes a little time. So this they can still experience, and as parents, how do we tell them how they can experience what is happiness in simple terms? Engage them in small tasks at home, which gives them a sense of satisfaction. कि मैंने आज ये तो किया, मैंने आज अपना कमरा साफ किया, or I cleaned my cupboard. It gives a sense of satisfaction, sense of confidence, little tasks accomplished within the realms of your home, since we can't go out anywhere. There's a lot to do. You can children can take up watering the plants, or they can also help their parents clean up their cupboards, but accomplish something in the day, during the day, which gives you a sense of confidence, which will lead to happiness. At the same time, parents will have to become a little realistic about what should be the expectations during these times. Don't have too much expectations. It's a difficult time. Everybody's trying to make the most of it. So acknowledge your child, appreciate them for what they are doing, but keep motivating them to do little tasks which make them feel, oh, maine aaj ye kiya.
I feel like today we should send a message out and I think invite a lot of the mothers who are watching us to really frame this for us, generate ideas, use this opportunity to say that, okay, today I taught my 7-year-old on how to make a sandwich, or my 5-year-old to assemble a fruit chart, whatever the age capability is. And, sometimes we say, okay, go get the laundry or wash the dishes. And you set realistic expectations. There is a likelihood that if the child has never done it, they are going to make a mess. And sometimes we are so pressed for time, even in this space, that we don't want that mess. It frustrates us. So we have to look at that time that, okay, it will take 7 days or 10 days for this child to get there. And after that, we will sail through, because we will have another ally on our side who feels accomplished, not bogged down by doing this. So I think we can take this endeavor to really invite people to share their ideas on this platform, and maybe send us a video clip or a picture or a clipping on WhatsApp, on Facebook, to show us what tasks they are accomplishing. Because we want to really generate that idea pool. Like you said, generate that idea pool of resources for other mothers on these are the tasks that we have accomplished on a daily basis with our children.
I can't hear you.
I think
I can't hear you.
Kadambari, I think your video has frozen. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think we've lost Kadambari for a minute, but this is a time to really engage all of you in the idea of movement with your children every single day, depending on the age they are at, then getting into their mental and physical nutrition, as well as the foods you create with them at home, and the mindfulness practices, the mindfulness of becoming aware of yourself, becoming mindful of the activities you're doing in front of your children, and finally, really coming to a space where we are harmonious with ourselves and our children. This is what we can bring into our environment of homeschooling while we have a curriculum going on in school. For some children, it's not there. For many, it is. There are online classes going on. But you as a parent can add all of these elements by being conscious of the movement, conscious of the nutrition, mental and physical, and conscious of the mindfulness practices that you are doing. So we're very happy that you joined us today. Due to technical difficulties, I think Kadambari couldn't stay with us anymore, but we were ecstatic to have her share her experiences, her thoughts in this really needed topic at this time. And we look forward to all your accomplishment tasks, videos, responsibilities, chores that you give your children, and how you achieve that in your creative spaces. So thank you today for joining us in our second session. And we really look forward to having you in the series. I think we have Kadambari for a few last notes back. She's joined us back. She's overcome our technical difficulties. So let's have one last piece of advice from you for parents. What would you advise them in this time?
Okay. I'm still learning as a parent myself, but whatever little advice I can give is just focus on developing a bond with your children, which means follow their cues. It's not just an abstract thought. How do we develop a bond with them? Follow their cues, see what the child needs before beginning to chart out a role for yourself in the child's life. Observe. Just step back and observe what the child needs. They are all very instinctive. They all know what they want. They are not little dependent creatures on us. They are very much deserving of full respect. So just observe them, and then of course you have to guide them through for some years till they become adults. You will find this journey much more enjoyable. The rest will follow.
Absolutely, allowing us at the same time the child from within us to come out. And I think this is a beautiful time for us to do that. Many of us have focused on the frustrations and the fears at this time, not realizing that we have our children at home to do pillow fights with, roll on the floor with, and sometimes that's when they really open up to you and say that, I didn't like the way you taught me maths yesterday. And that's where your cue is. That, okay, what did you feel like? And you're not frustrated at that point. So your body language is easy. Your child feels comfortable and they actually share. So thank you for saying that, because that really brings out the issue. And we're happy to have you. And we
thank you so much.
Help us focus on ages as we go along in this series on, taking up toddlers or taking up mid-teens, pre-teens ages. Let's focus on real strategies for each of those groups. This was our first lecture with you, first discussion with you, and we're going to build on that in the coming months. So
thank you. Same here. Look forward to everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.